Diplomatic efforts to end the war in Iran appear to have stalled as Tehran fires its ships in the Strait of Hormuz and the US maintains its naval blockade.
Germany is reorganizing its armed forces. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius presented a military strategy.
Partygoers make the most of what may be their last unauthorized party as French lawmakers launch a major crackdown.
Diplomatic efforts to end the war between the United States and Iran appear to have stalled as Tehran escalates tensions by firing its ships in the Strait of Hormuz and the US maintains its naval blockade of Iranian ports. Iran is demanding a complete end to the US blockade for any talks to resume after the US in recent days intercepted Iranian cargo vessels it said were attempting to evade its siege.
Operation Economic Fury continues, and the effective and successful naval blockade continues as well of ships and vessels that are moving to and from Iranian ports. We are completely strangling their economy through this blockade. They're losing $500 million a day. The Karg Island is completely full. They can't move oil in and out. They can't even pay their own people as a result of this economic leverage that President Trump has inflicted over them. So he's satisfied with that as we await their response, and we will see. The president has not set a firm deadline to receive an Iranian proposal.
Meanwhile, Israeli attacks on Lebanon have continued despite the U.S. brokered ceasefire, with the health ministry announcing that at least 6 people were killed in 3 separate strikes on Wednesday. Israel says people violated the truce by getting too close to its troops and stressed that Hezbollah is a common enemy that must be defeated.
We made a historic decision to negotiate directly with Lebanon after more than 40 years. Unfortunately, Lebanon is a failed state, a state that is de facto under Iranian occupation through Hezbollah. But this also leads to a conclusion. Hezbollah is common enemy of Israel and Lebanon.
Oil prices continue to rise as uncertainty looms over the war, with Brent crude again nosing over the $100 a barrel mark on Thursday, a roughly 40% spike compared to pre-war levels. Pakistan is continuing to engage with both Washington and Tehran in hopes of getting peace talks back on track to reach a comprehensive agreement to end the hostilities.
The EU Energy and Housing Commissioner Dan Jurgensen has warned that the massive energy crisis sparked by the US-Israeli war on Iran will likely have long-term repercussions for consumers.
This is not a short-term, small increase in prices. This is a crisis that is probably as serious as the 1973 and the 2022 crisis combined. And this means that we are looking into some very difficult months or maybe even years, depending, of course, on the development in the Middle East. But even in a best-case scenario, it's still bad.
The war in Iran has throttled global oil and gas markets and rattled the EU as a major importer of energy. Jurgensen told reporters that EU governments remain very worried about possible jet fuel shortages, especially as tourism season approaches. On Tuesday, EU transportation ministers discussed how to protect consumers at home and at the pump after the head of the International Energy Agency warned that Europe has maybe 6 weeks' supply left of jet fuel. Kaja Kallas, the EU's foreign chief, warned that if the fighting resumes, it will come at a very large cost for all.
Germany is reorganizing its armed forces. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius presented a military strategy on Wednesday. The German government has analyzed how threats could develop in the future, which scenarios are realistic and which potential conflicts Germany must prepare for.
Selten war eine Militärstrategie so nötig wie in dieser historischen Phase. Die Bedrohungslage hat sich vor allem seit Putins Krieg gegen die Ukraine verschärft. Außerdem wird die internationale Rechtsordnung so sehr in Frage gestellt wie schon lange nicht mehr oder wahrscheinlich seit dem Zweiten Weltkrieg noch nie. Anders ausgedrückt, die Welt ist unberechenbarer geworden und ja, man muss auch sagen, gefährlicher.
This rethink strategy includes air defense, long-range weapon systems, and the ability to conduct modern data-based combat. New technologies, such as artificial intelligence, will also play a greater role in the future. Another focus is on deep strike capabilities, the ability to hit targets far behind the front line. Pistorius made it clear that such capabilities will become increasingly important in the future. This includes long-range precision weapons that can be used to take out enemy supply routes, command centers, or infrastructure at an early stage. In parallel to the reorganization of content, the German government is planning a significant expansion of the Bundeswehr. The aim is to have a total of 460,000 soldiers, consisting of active troops and reserves. There are currently around 184,300 active soldiers.
The European Union has formally launched the internal process to unblock the 90 billion euros loan for Ukraine and the 20th package of sanctions against Russia. Hungary or Slovakia may still prevent the adoption, but diplomats believe it is unlikely following the restoration of the Druzhba oil pipeline. The procedure is expected to be concluded on Thursday.
So indeed, once the measure is taken also by the Council, we can move on and without wasting any further time on moving on to the next steps in terms of being able to disburse the Ukrainian loan amounts to Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the pipeline damaged in late January by Russian drones was repaired and could resume operations.
Євросоюз просив Україну відремонтувати нафтопровід «Дружба», який росіяни розбили. Ми відремонтували. Сподіваємось, що і Євросоюз буде реалізовувати домовленості.
The EU loan has been blocked for months by outgoing Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. He has accused Kyiv of blocking oil flows for political reasons.
Thousands of high school and university students marched through the Czech capital on Wednesday to protest against a government plan to overhaul and reduce funding for public radio and television. The new coalition government, led by populist Prime Minister Andrej Babis, drafted the plan to scrap the fees that individuals, households and businesses pay to access the outlets. Instead, the public media would be fully dependent on the state budget. Critics say that would compromise their independence. The media's labor union said they were ready to go on strike if the government goes ahead with the legislation, which could take effect next year. The Russian publishing house Exmo has confirmed that its CEO and 3 other employees are being questioned as part of a criminal case on extremism over the publication of books dealing with LGBT themes. In its statement, Exmo said the probe was related to titles published by another company, Popcorn Books, which was bought by Exmo in 2023 but closed this year. Popcorn Books' audience was targeted at teenagers and young adults, and some titles contained LGBT characters or storylines. According to the version of the publishing house, which rejects all accusations, the interrogations are related to the testimony given by the Popcorn Books employees accused in the case. The Kremlin has for years been hardening repressive laws against the LGBTQ community as part of what President Vladimir Putin touts as a drive to promote traditional values, including cracking down on films, books, art, and culture. The ultra-conservative social turn has accelerated amid the Ukraine war, with strict censorship on media and the outlawing of what Moscow calls the LGBT movement as extremist. They have gripper arms, can see and hear. Humanoid robots use artificial intelligence to react to their surroundings. In Erlangen, Siemens has deployed its humanoid robot in a factory for the first time. Particularly risky is the human-machine interface.
Und das ist auch Kerngegenstand der Forschung. Deswegen haben wir das auch in unserem Werk getestet, nämlich welche Sicherheitsmechanismen müssen greifen, damit eben ein Zusammenarbeiten von Robotern und den Menschen in der Fabrik einfach problemlos möglich ist.
The technology behind humanoid robots, also known as physical AI, is developing rapidly.
Ich glaube, in wenigen Jahren werden wir solche Dinge nicht nur im Test sehen, sondern wirklich im ganz täglichen Leben in einer Fabrik, dass da dort eben Menschen und humanoide Roboter Hand in Hand arbeiten.
Artificial intelligence could fundamentally change everyday work in factories. Heavy physical labor could be performed by humanoid robots in the future.
Davon werden eben auch mittelständische kleine Unternehmen in ganz besonderer Weise profitieren. Denn genau diese Unternehmen haben ja auch heute schon ganz wesentliche Probleme darin, auch Nachwuchskräfte, Fachkräfte zu finden.
Siemens is exhibiting its humanoid robot at the Hannover Messe, the world's largest industrial trade fair. Industrial automation is one of the key topics there. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz intends to do everything politically possible to ensure that Germany remains a successful, innovative business hub. Merz was particularly impressed by the company Agile Robots.
Agile 1, please help me assemble the FR3 robot arm.
Okay. This humanoid robot responds to complex commands and adapts in real time. According to the company, it is set to begin working in their own production facilities as early as this year.